Imagine you have $20,000 just sitting in your checking account.
Just sitting right there.
Right, just sitting there. You've been, grinding, making all these sacrifices for years to get to this exact number.
It's a huge milestone for anyone.
It really is. And in one reality, you take that money, you use it as a down payment to buy a house, and like 5 years later, thanks to market appreciation, you are sitting on $100,000 in equity.
You've officially built wealth at that point.
Exactly, you've built wealth. But, and here's the catch, in another reality, you take that exact same 20 grand and you use it to just wipe out the entirety of your student loan debt.
Which feels amazing.
Yeah.
You are completely free.
You are free. But 5 years later, when you finally go to buy that same house, the price has skyrocketed.
Oh, yeah. The interest rates have shifted entirely.
Right, and you are permanently priced out of your own neighborhood. I mean, you made a responsible choice, but it basically cost you your future.
It's a terrifying scenario.
It really is. So, welcome to the Generational Wealth Project. Before we go any further into solving this exact dilemma, I need you to do something super essential.
Hit that like button.
Yes, hit that like button and subscribe to the show. It is absolutely the best way to ensure you never miss out on the financial frameworks we are building here.
Do it right now.
Yeah, please do it right now, because today we are tackling what I truly believe is the ultimate modern financial tug of war. We are doing a complete deep dive into this.
It really is a tug of war that kind of defines the anxiety of an entire generation.
Oh, 100%.
You are standing at this massive crossroads, right? Holding your hard-earned cash, and you are being pulled in two entirely different directions by two, well, deeply conflicting pieces of conventional wisdom.
Yeah, you've got the real estate people yelling in one ear.
Exactly. On one side, it's the constant drumbeat of homeownership. Build equity, stop paying your landlord's mortgage, just get in the game.
Get in the game right.
But on the other side, you have this psychological and mathematical imperative to eliminate debt. Just be free, lower your liabilities, don't owe anybody anything.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when you look at these two paths, they feel mutually exclusive,
They feel like a zero-sum game.
Right. If you, the listener, funnel every spare cent into that down payment, you are just letting your student loans linger for decades.
Which is stressful.
It's incredibly stressful. But if you obliterate the student loans first, you are just sitting on the sidelines of a housing market that, well, it seems to only go up.
Yeah, and the problem with the way we normally discuss this is that people treat it purely as a math equation.
Like it's just numbers on a page.
Right. They treat it like it's to be solved on a static spreadsheet. And if the world were static, you would just look at the interest rate of your student loan, compare it to the mortgage rate and the expected return on housing, and just pick the higher number.
Kick the higher number and call it a day.
Exactly. But we do not live in a static spreadsheet.
We really don't.
To solve this puzzle, we have to recognize the massive compounding momentum of the housing market first.
Okay, so let's look at the real estate side of the equation first.
Yeah, let's start there. Because these two financial forces, student debt and real estate, they do not operate by the same physical laws.
No, they don't. I look at the case for prioritizing the down payment first, and it reminds me of the concept of opportunity cost, but like on steroids.
Oh, absolutely.
I think of it as the moving train analogy. Imagine you are standing on a train platform, right? And the train in front of you is the housing market.
Okay, I like this.
The doors are open, but you've got this incredibly messy, heavy suitcase.
Which represents your student loans.
Exactly, your student loans. You are standing on the platform, frantically trying to organize every little piece of debt, telling yourself, I cannot step onto that train until my suitcase is perfectly packed and completely empty.
But while you're doing that,
The train starts rolling.
and it doesn't just roll, it accelerates. The barrier to entry gets higher every single second you delay.
Exactly. The tickets get more expensive, the train speeds away, and by the time you finally have zero debt, by the time your bags are perfectly packed, the train is moving so fast that you can never catch it.
You are debt-free, but you are stuck on the platform forever.
Stuck forever. Why is that momentum so difficult to combat? Like, why can't we just wait it out?
Because of the macroeconomics of housing versus the microeconomics of your personal debt.
Right. Macro versus micro.
Your student loans, especially if they are federal and fixed, are a known, capped quantity. Even if they accrue interest, they are enclosed within your personal financial ecosystem.
They're contained.
Exactly. The housing market, however, is driven by global and national forces. You're competing with institutional investors, dealing with supply chain shortages, zoning laws, demographic shifts.
It's a behemoth.
It is. And it waits for absolutely no one. So when we look at prioritizing the down payment, the argument hinges on locking in your housing costs against the relentless tide of inflation.
Yeah, let's talk about that fixed cost, because I constantly hear people argue that renting is cheaper.
I hear that all the time, too.
And sure, in certain high cost of living urban centers, the first year of renting an apartment might mathematically require less cash out of pocket than the first year of a mortgage, taxes, and maintenance combined.
Sure, year one.
Right. But that is an incredibly short-sighted view.
It's a view that completely ignores the trajectory of rent over a 30-year horizon. Rent is a variable compounding expense.
It never stays flat.
Never. It trends upward, historically, and relentlessly. When you sign a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, you are effectively shorting inflation.
Oh, wow. Shorting inflation, that's a great way to put it.
It's true. You are taking the largest line item in your monthly budget, your shelter, and you are freezing the principal and interest payment in time.
So 30 years from now, while rent has potentially tripled due to inflation.
Your mortgage payment remains exactly what it was on the day you closed.
Okay, so buying the house is a defensive move. It's a shield.
A massive shield.
But, and here's where I get stuck, if I am taking on hundreds of thousands of dollars in mortgage debt, how can the financial industry possibly look at my existing student loan debt and classify it as, less bad?
Right, the good debt versus bad debt debate.
Yeah. I hear that phrase a lot, student loans are less bad debt. I have to be honest, when money is leaving my checking account every month, it doesn't feel less bad.
It feels like a drain.
It feels like a total drain. Is that categorization just a coping mechanism to make us feel better?
It is absolutely not a coping mechanism. It is a structural reality based on how different debt instruments are underwritten and managed.
Okay, break that down for me.
Let's compare a student loan to a credit card or a car loan. If you lose your job tomorrow and you cannot pay your credit card, the interest rate might spike to 29.99%.
Right, and your credit score gets destroyed almost immediately.
Exactly. And eventually they send you to collections. Now, if you can't pay your auto loan, a tow truck shows up in the middle of the night and repossesses your car.
Which leaves you unable to even get to your next job interview.
Right. And if you can't pay your mortgage, the bank eventually forecloses and takes the roof over your head. The consequences are immediate and catastrophic.
So the stakes are incredibly high with those gets.
Precisely. But student loans, specifically federal student loans, have safety nets woven directly into their legal structure that simply do not exist anywhere else in the financial sector.
Like what kind of safety nets?
Well, they offer significantly longer repayment terms, which dilutes the monthly burden. But more importantly, they offer income-driven repayment, or IDR plans.
Oh, right. An IDR plan literally recalibrates your required monthly payment based on your discretionary income.
Exactly.
So if you suffer a catastrophic income loss, your legally required payment can drop to literally $0.
And you remain in perfectly good standing.
That's wild when you compare it to a mortgage.
The flexibility is unparalleled. I mean, what's fascinating here is that you could try calling your landlord next month and saying, hey, I had a really rough quarter. Can we make rent $0 for a while?
Yeah, they would just laugh and hand you an eviction notice.
Or try explaining that to a mortgage underwriter. They will initiate foreclosure. Because federal student loans have this baked-in flexibility, carrying that debt while you secure a housing asset is considered mathematically and structurally defensible.
So you are prioritizing an asset that protects you from inflation over paying down a highly flexible, relatively low-interest liability.
You got it.
Let me paint a deeply specific picture for you, the listener. Let's stretch this out over a 7-year horizon.
Okay, let's run the scenario.
Scenario A. You are fiercely committed to the idea of being completely debt-free before you buy a house. You have a $50,000 student loan.
A very common number.
Right. So for the next 7 years, you live on rice and beans, and you throw every single extra dollar at that loan. Meanwhile, you are renting.
And rent is going up.
Exactly. Year 1, your rent is $1,500. Year 3, it jumps to $1,750. Year 5, it's $2,000.
It hurts just thinking about it.
Right. By year 7, you finally make that last triumphant payment on your student loan. You are debt-free, you pop champagne.
Congratulations.
But then you look at the housing market. That starter home you had your eye on, which cost $250,000 7 years ago, has appreciated by a conservative 4% a year.
So what's the price now?
It now costs $330,000. And your rent is now $2,300. You won the battle against your student loan, but you lost the war against inflation.
That is a brutal reality. Now let's analyze scenario B.
Please, give me some hope.
You acknowledge the student loan, but you decide to leverage its flexibility. You put it on an IDR plan, or you simply make the minimum payments.
Okay.
You take all that extra cash flow and quarantine it into a down payment fund. 2 years in, you buy that $250,000 house.
So you're in the house much earlier.
Exactly. You lock in a fixed mortgage payment of, say, $1,600 a month. 7 years down the line, yes, you still have a balance on your student loan. But your mortgage payment is still exactly $1,600 a month. It completely shielded you from the rent increases that crushed the person in scenario A.
Wow.
Furthermore, your house is now worth $330,000. You have passively generated $80,000 in equity, all while your monthly housing costs remain frozen.
The opportunity cost of waiting is just staggering when you lay it out like that, because in scenario B, the down payment you made also lowered the principal of your mortgage, meaning you are paying less interest to the bank on the house over 30 years.
Exactly. You used your capital to acquire an appreciating asset rather than solely extinguishing a depreciating liability.
Which is why the real estate priority is heavily favored by institutional wealth builders, right?
Absolutely. They view debt not as a moral failing, but as a tool for leverage.
If you can borrow money for your education at 4 or 5% and acquire an asset that appreciates while also providing utility like, a place to actually live, the math heavily favors acquiring the asset.
It's just smart math.
But, and this is the massive pivot point of this entire deep dive, that logic relies entirely on the assumption that you can psychologically and financially handle the debt.
Which is a huge assumption.
It really is, because if the housing market is a moving train, carrying high interest or variable student debt while trying to catch that train is like trying to sprint down the platform while wearing a 50-pound lead vest.
You're just dragging yourself along.
Yeah, you might manage to drag yourself onto the train, but you are going to be absolutely exhausted, financially fragile, and one misstep could pull you under completely.
It's precarious.
So let's pivot and analyze the exact opposite approach. The case for erasing the student debt first. The freedom priority.
Let's do it. Because the freedom priority isn't just about feelings. It has an incredibly robust mathematical foundation, too.
Right. It's not just warm and fuzzy.
Not at all. We have to look at how amortization schedules work. The longer you delay paying off a loan, the more interest capitalizes or compounds over the life of the loan.
Right. Because you're just paying for the privilege of keeping the debt around.
Exactly. Every month you pay only the minimum. A massive portion of your payment is just treading water, paying the interest that accrued over the last 30 days.
You're barely chipping away at the principal.
Over 10 or 20 years, you might end up paying double the original borrowed amount simply because you stretched out the timeline.
And that assumes a fixed interest rate. We need to talk about variable interest rates, because this is where the spreadsheet logic of debt is cheap completely falls apart.
Variable rates are terrifying.
They are. A lot of private student loans carry variable rates. To me, a variable interest rate is like playing a game of financial roulette, where the casino can decide to add more double zeros to the wheel whenever they want.
The roulette analogy is highly accurate, actually, because variable rates are typically tied to macroeconomic indexes like the prime rate or SOFR, the secured overnight financing rate.
Things you have zero control over.
Absolutely zero control. If the Federal Reserve decides to hike interest rates to combat broader economic inflation, your student loan rate automatically adjusts upward.
So you could be perfectly executing your budget, buying your house, managing your money, and suddenly your student loan payment spikes by $200 a month because a central bank board decided to change a policy.
It happens all the time.
That is a ticking time bomb in your household budget.
It introduces a severe level of systemic risk into your personal finances. If you have just taken on the massive, rigid obligation of a new mortgage, the absolute last thing you need is a volatile variable liability sitting right next to it.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
Imagine closing on your house and then discovering that the HVAC system is failing and requires an $8,000 replacement.
Ouch.
And in that exact same month, your variable student loan rate adjusts from 5% to 8.5%.
Oh my gosh, that is the exact scenario where the 50-pound lead vest pulls you underwater.
The compounding pressure is terrifying. And we also have to look at the invisible gatekeepers of homeownership here.
The credit bureaus.
Yes. Paying off your student loans completely erases that specific debt burden from your credit profile.
Now, I know the FICO model is complex, right? And student loans aren't the only factor. Payment history and revolving credit utilization are huge, but carrying massive student debt absolutely impacts your profile.
It impacts it specifically through your debt-to-income ratio, which we will explore deeply when we discuss underwriting, but it also impacts your overall risk profile.
What do underwriters actually see when they look at that?
When an underwriter looks at your file, they are assessing your capacity to absorb financial shocks. A borrower with zero unsecured debt is inherently more resilient than a borrower carrying $60,000 in student loans, regardless of the interest rate.
Okay, I want to step away from the raw numbers for a second and push back on the hyper-analytical approach. Let's talk about the behavioral economics, the psychology of debt.
The human element.
Right. What does this all mean for your actual peace of mind? Because we can debate basis points and yield curves until we are blue in the face. But humans are not algorithms.
No, we are not.
We feel the weight of debt. A lot of people simply refuse to enter the home buying process until they have a clean slate.
And we cannot discount human psychology. In fact, ignoring it is where most financial plans fail entirely.
Really?
Oh yes, the psychological weight of debt causes a phenomenon known as decision fatigue, or sometimes financial cognitive burden.
I've felt that low-level hum of anxiety.
Exactly. When a portion of your mental bandwidth is constantly occupied by the underlying stress of owing money, it affects your performance at work, your relationships, and your ability to make sound long-term decisions.
It's the persistent, nagging reality that a piece of your labor, every single 2 weeks when you get your paycheck, it belongs to someone else. You are working for the bank.
And when you buy a house, the unpredictability of ownership requires your full mental bandwidth.
Yeah, because homeownership is not just a monthly mortgage payment. It's property tax reassessments that spike your escrow.
It is the roof leaking after a freak storm.
It is the realization that you are now the landlord, the maintenance crew, and the property manager all rolled into one.
Entering that arena of unpredictable, high-stakes home maintenance while you are already psychologically depleted by pre-existing student loan stress, it's a recipe for severe burnout.
Waking up in a house you own, knowing you owe nothing to anyone in the world except the mortgage company, provides a level of mental clarity and freedom that literally no spreadsheet can quantify.
It's a huge quality of life upgrade.
It allows you to take career risks, start a business, or invest aggressively because your baseline liabilities are zero.
But wait, I know the spreadsheet warriors always have a counter-argument here.
There's always a yeah, but.
Right. Isn't there a tax advantage to keeping the student loans around? Some sort of deduction that softens the blow?
There is, and it is frequently misunderstood. Under current tax law, you can deduct up to $2,500 of interest paid on qualified student loans per year.
Okay.
Importantly, this is an above-the-line deduction, which means you can take it even if you claim the standard deduction and do not itemize your taxes. It reduces your adjusted gross income, or AGI. Okay, let's stop and really walk the listener through the exact math of this $2,500 deduction, because financial terminology tricks people.
It really does.
I hear tax deduction, and my brain immediately translates that to free money from the government. But it is absolutely not a one-to-one credit, right? If I pay the bank $2,500 in interest over the year, the IRS doesn't just cut me a check for $2,500.
No, they absolutely do not. A tax credit reduces your tax bill, dollar for dollar. A tax deduction simply reduces the amount of your income that is subject to tax.
Okay, give me an example.
So let's say your taxable income puts you in the 22% marginal tax bracket. If you deduct $2,500 of student loan interest from your income, you are saving 22% of that $2,500.
Let me do that math. 22% of $2,500 is $550.
Cool.
So my tax bill goes down by $550. That's nice. It slightly softens the blow. But wait, I still had to physically pay $2,500 out of my bank account to the student loan servicer in order to get a $550 discount on my taxes.
You are seeing the mathematical reality. You are spending $1 to save 22 cents.
That is like giving someone a $20 bill on the street just so they will hand you a $5 bill back.
It's completely nonsensical when you frame it like that.
Why do people cite this as a reason to keep debt? It's completely irrational. You have to weigh that minor $550 tax benefit against the thousands of dollars in interest you're actively accruing.
It is not a wealth-building strategy. It is merely a slight mitigation of a loss.
Wow.
Which is why financial literacy is so vital. People use the tax deduction to rationalize keeping the debt, just as they use another incredibly dangerous mechanism to rationalize avoiding the debt altogether.
Oh, what's that?
The illusion of deferment. This raises an important question about how lenders manipulate our desire for relief.
Oh, the deferment and forbearance traps. These sound like such benevolent, friendly words. We will forbear your loans. We will grant you a deferment.
It sounds like a gift.
It sounds like the bank is putting his arm around your shoulder and saying, hey, we know you're trying to save for a house. Take a break. We've got you.
But it is arguably one of the most destructive mechanisms in personal finance, primarily because it preys on your immediate need for cash flow while completely hiding the long-term devastation.
How so?
When you put your loans into forbearance, your required monthly payment drops to zero. To the borrower, this feels like a life raft. You suddenly have an extra $400 a month.
Right, and you think, this is brilliant. I will route this $400 straight into my house down payment fund. I am hacking the system.
But it's not a life raft. It's an anchor. Because what is happening to the interest while you aren't making payments?
In most cases, it doesn't just pause, right?
No. In the vast majority of forbearance scenarios, the interest never sleeps. It continues to accrue daily. And because you are not making payments to cover that new interest, it gets added to your principal balance. This is called negative amortization.
Negative amortization. That phrase should strike fear into the heart of anyone trying to build wealth. It is silent growth. It is a tumor on your net worth.
It's wealth destruction happening quietly in the background.
You pause your payments for 2 years to aggressively save for a house. You feel great about your growing savings account. But over those 2 years, your $50,000 student loan balance quietly swelled to $58,000.
Exactly.
You didn't borrow any more money, you didn't buy anything, you just stood still, and now you owe $8,000 more. The math is actively working against you while you sleep.
Making regular payments and attacking the principal is the only mathematical way to keep yourself moving forward.
So we have established the absolute extremes of this tug of war. The real estate priority demands you buy now, leverage the flexibility of the debt, and get on the moving train before it leaves the station.
And the freedom priority demands you kill the debt now, drop the 50-pound lead vest, reject the variable interest roulette wheel, and buy the house with total psychological clarity.
But life and personal finance is rarely binary. If you are listening to this deep dive, you are an ambitious person. You don't want to choose between a rock and a hard place. You want both.
You want the house and you want the debt gone.
Yes. So how do we engineer a system to attack both goals simultaneously without going absolutely broke or burning out? This requires strategy. We need to construct the Do Both masterclass. We are talking about parallel pathing.
Parallel pathing is the most complex financial operation an individual can undertake because it requires managing multiple timelines, interest rates, and behavioral impulses simultaneously.
It sounds like you need to be a project manager for your own life.
It takes supreme organization. And the absolute first step, the non-negotiable prerequisite, is gaining unflinching clarity about your current liabilities. You cannot defeat an enemy you haven't mapped. You must list all your debts.
I want you, the listener, to visualize a hypothetical scenario this coming Sunday afternoon. Clear off your kitchen table, brew a strong cup of coffee, open your laptop.
Get a spreadsheet ready.
And I want you to lay out every single financial obligation you have in the world. Car loans, credit cards, federal student loans, private student loans, personal loans, everything.
Leave nothing out.
And you don't just write down Chase credit card. You write down the exact remaining principal balance. You write down the exact interest rate to the decimal point, and you write down the minimum required monthly payment. You have to look the monster directly in the eye.
Once you have that comprehensive map illuminated on your kitchen table, you initiate the strategy. And when it comes to the debt side of the parallel path, the golden rule is the avalanche method.
The avalanche method.
Yes, you must direct maximum capital to the highest interest debt first.
Let's define why the avalanche method is superior. Because I know the snowball method is very popular, where you pay off the smallest balance first just to get a quick psychological win, even if the interest rate is low.
Right. Dave Ramsey popularized that.
But if we are trying to buy a house, we don't have time for psychological participation trophies. We need maximum mathematical efficiency.
The avalanche method is mathematically undeniable. If you have a credit card at 24% interest, a car loan at 7%, and a student loan at 4%, that credit card is a raging 5-alarm financial fire.
It is incinerating your wealth daily.
The student loan is just a slow drip in the sink. You must put out the fire first. You pay the absolute minimum required on the car loan and the student loan, and you pour every single extra dollar you can source into that 24% credit card until it is completely dead.
And the beauty of the avalanche is the cascading momentum. Once that credit card is dead, you take the massive payment you were making toward it, and you roll all of that money into the next highest debt, the 7% car loan.
It's like a snowball rolling downhill, picking up mass and velocity, but it is mathematically optimized to save you the most interest possible.
But here's the friction. While we are avalanching this debt, we are supposed to be saving for the house down payment at the exact same time. And this is where human nature completely betrays us. I call this the cookie jar effect.
Behavioral design is critical here. Explain the cookie jar effect for the listener.
Okay, so if your down payment savings is just sitting there in your primary checking account, or even a basic savings account linked to your daily debit card, you will eat the cookie.
You'll dip in.
You will. You will log into your banking app on a Tuesday, you will see a balance of $18,000, and your brain will instantly experience wealth illusion.
You feel rich for a second.
You think, wow, I am flush with cash. I can definitely afford to upgrade my car or take that trip to Europe. But that isn't car money. That is your future house.
Which is why the principle of separation is absolutely non-negotiable. If you want a successfully parallel path, you must quarantine your down payment funds.
Quarantine it. Treat it like it's infectious.
Exactly. You have to create an artificial barrier between your daily operational cash flow and your long-term capital reserves. The most effective method is opening a separate, high-yield savings account at an entirely different banking institution.
It has to be out of sight and out of mind. You set up an automated transfer the exact morning your paycheck hits. The money vanishes from your operational account before you even have a chance to desire it.
Automation is your best friend.
And it gets routed to an online bank that purposefully takes 2 or 3 business days to transfer funds back to your checking. That time delay is a feature, not a bug. It creates a friction barrier against your own impulsive spending.
It forces you to pause.
Now, inevitably, someone listening is screaming at their phone right now. If I have this house money sitting in a savings account, shouldn't I invest it in the S&P 500 to make it grow faster?
That is a very common impulse, and it requires a massive structural caveat. Putting your down payment into a brokerage account to capture market yield is a possibility, but it introduces principal risk.
And that's dangerous.
The stock market is inherently volatile in the short term. If your timeline to purchase a home is within the next 2 to 4 years, you are taking a massive gamble.
You could lose your shirt.
Imagine saving $40,000, investing it in index funds, and right when you find your dream home, a macroeconomic shock causes a 20% market correction. Your $40,000 is suddenly $32,000.
You just lost your down payment because you got greedy for an extra 4% yield. Keep the house money safe. High-yield savings accounts, certificates of deposit, or short-term treasury bills. Let your long-term retirement accounts take the market risks.
Solid advice.
Speaking of freeing up cash for that separate account, what about renegotiating the student loans themselves? Can we manipulate the terms to give us more liquidity for the house?
Absolutely. Debt restructuring is a powerful tool in parallel pathing. You should investigate consolidating or refinancing your student loans to either secure a lower interest rate or extend the term to lower the required monthly payment.
So stretching it out just to lower the monthly obligation?
Or, as we discussed earlier, converting federal loans to an income-driven repayment plan. If you successfully drop your mandatory student loan payment from $600 a month to $200 a month, you have instantly engineered $400 of free cash flow every single month.
And the rule of parallel pathing dictates that this $400 must instantly and automatically be routed to your quarantined house fund.
Exactly. You don't spend it.
That sounds like a brilliant hack, but I have a massive warning flag I want to throw on the field here. Because this strategy directly intersects with the ruthless logic of mortgage underwriting.
Oh, this is the trap.
It is. When you finally go to the bank to get pre-approved for your house, the lender doesn't just look at how much cash you have in your high-yield savings account. They run your entire financial life through an algorithm to determine your debt-to-income ratio, your DTI.
Which is the ultimate gatekeeper.
So if I use an IDR plan to legally drop my student loan payment to $100 a month, does the mortgage underwriter look at that and say, wow, you only owe $100 a month, your DTI is fantastic, here is your mortgage?
This is perhaps the most dangerous trap in the entire home buying process for folks with student loans. The answer? in many cases, is a hard no.
Ouch.
Mortgage lenders, adhering to guidelines set by entities like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, must assess risk based on worst-case scenarios. If you are on an IDR plan, the underwriter knows that your payment could spike if your income increases or if you lose eligibility for the program.
So they ignore your actual payment.
In many underwriting algorithms, yes. They will ignore your $100 IDR payment and instead calculate your DTI using either 1% of your total loan balance or the fully amortizing standard repayment amount.
That is absolutely wild. Let me make sure I understand the gravity of this. You could have 50 grand saved up. You could be perfectly comfortable paying all your monthly bills. But because you have a $60,000 student loan, the bank's algorithm ignores your actual $100 payment, manually assigns a $600 payment to your file, and says, nope, your simulated debt-to-income ratio is too high, mortgage denied.
Precisely. You engineered day-to-day liquidity for yourself, but you inadvertently sabotaged your structural creditworthiness.
Oh, wow.
This is why you must speak with a mortgage broker early in the parallel pathing process to understand exactly how your specific loan type will be treated in the DTI calculation.
You cannot fly blind on this. And while we are building this complex architecture of parallel pathing, there is one non-negotiable foundation that underpins all of it.
The safety net.
Yes. Before you aggressively avalanche debt and before you hoard cash for a house, you must construct an emergency fund.
A fully funded emergency reserve of 3 to 6 months of vital living expenses.
Not a credit card with a high limit. Actual liquid cash sitting in a separate account. If you don't have this, you are building a financial skyscraper on a swamp.
One bad day and it all falls down.
The first medical emergency or job loss will cause the entire structure to collapse, and you will go right back into debt. And furthermore, if your employer offers a 401k or a similar retirement plan with a match, you must capture that match.
Employer matching is mathematically the single greatest return on investment you will ever achieve. It is 100% immediate yield.
You can't beat that anywhere.
If you contribute $5,000 and your employer matches $5,000, you have doubled your money with zero risk. Do not sacrifice this free capital just to accelerate your down payment or your debt payoff.
Leave no free money on the table. So let's look at the parallel pathing masterclass in its entirety. Your emergency fund is concrete. Your 401k match is secured. Every debt is exposed on the kitchen table. High-interest fires are being avalanched. Student loans are strategically managed with a deep awareness of DTI algorithms, and your down payment savings are quarantined behind a friction barrier in a high-yield bank.
It's a beautiful system.
If we are successfully executing this complex dance month after month, we need to know where the finish line actually is. What is the target number? Let's demystify the exact math of buying a house.
The primary target number that has been drilled into the consciousness of the American homebuyer for decades is 20%.
The golden number.
To obtain a conventional mortgage without incurring the ongoing penalty of private mortgage insurance, or PMI, you must bring a down payment equal to 20% of the home's purchase price. Historically, this is the gold standard of real estate acquisition.
But let's be incredibly real for a second. The median price of a home is constantly shifting. But let's take a moderate starter home in a medium cost of living area. Let's call it $400,000.
Okay, $400,000.
20% of $400,000 is $80,000 in liquid cash. Most first-time buyers who are simultaneously paying rent and battling student loans do not have $80,000 sitting idle.
It is a monumental hurdle for a regular earner.
It is. So what happens if you don't hit the gold standard? You enter the realm of the PMI penalty.
Private mortgage insurance is a fascinating, often despised financial instrument. It is crucial to understand what PMI actually is. It does not protect you, the buyer, in any way.
Not at all.
PMI is an insurance policy that protects the lender in the event that you default on the loan and the home goes into foreclosure.
Because you didn't bring enough cash to the table.
Because you did not provide a 20% equity cushion. The bank views you as a higher risk. If property values dip and they have to liquidate your house, they might lose money. PMI covers their potential loss.
And you get to foot the bill for their insurance policy.
Exactly. For the privilege of securing their risk, they charge you anywhere from 0.3% to 1.5% of the total loan amount, annually broken up into your monthly payments.
Let's do a verbal role play on this math, because percentages obscure the actual pain. People hear 1% and think it's nothing.
Right. It sounds negligible.
If I buy a $300,000 house and I put down 5%, which is $15,000, My total mortgage loan is $285,000.
Okay, I'm following the math.
If my PMI rate lands right in the middle, say 1%, I am paying an extra $2,850 a year. That is $237 every single month, vanishing into thin air.
Poof, gone.
It doesn't go toward my principal. It doesn't build my equity. It is literally just a penalty fee to the bank because I wasn't rich enough to have $60,000 in cash. That $237 is capital I could have been using to avalanche my student loans.
It is pure friction on your wealth-building engine. However, and this is a big however, if we connect this to the macroeconomic picture we discussed earlier, we have to analyze PMI through a different lens. Is it a penalty? Yes. But is it also a calculated trade-off?
A trade-off. How do you justify burning $237 a month?
You justify it by analyzing the opportunity cost of time. You have to ask yourself, how long will it realistically take you to save that full 20%?
Probably years.
If saving an additional $45,000 takes you 5 extra years, what is happening to the world around you during those 60 months? You are paying rent, which yields zero equity, and more importantly, that $300,000 house is likely appreciating.
Oh, wow.
At a modest historical appreciation rate, that house might cost $360,000 5 years from now.
Let me map that out. If I wait 5 years to diligently save the full 20%, I proudly avoid the $237 monthly PMI fee, but the house itself just cost me an extra $60,000 in purchase price. Not to mention, I burn tens of thousands of dollars in rent paying someone else's mortgage. When you frame it like that, is PMI actually just a cover charge to get into the wealth building club early?
That is the exact mathematical revelation that transforms how people approach real estate. For many buyers, especially in rising markets, paying the PMI cover charge to secure the asset today is mathematically vastly superior to waiting on the sidelines to save 20%.
The math really flips on its head when you zoom out.
The mortgage industry understands this dynamic perfectly, which is why they have engineered numerous low-down payment programs to facilitate entry.
Let's walk through those access points, because if we are parallel pathing, we need to know the lowest possible barrier to entry. I always hear about FHA loans.
Federal Housing Administration, or FHA, loans are designed specifically to provide access. They require a down payment of only 3.5%. Furthermore, they have significantly lower credit score requirements than conventional loans. They are heavily utilized by first-time buyers.
3.5% down is incredibly accessible. On a $300,000 house, that's $10,500. A lot of people can parallel path their way to 10 grand, but there's always a catch when the government is involved. What is the structural trap of an FHA loan?
The catch is the structure of the mortgage insurance. Because FHA loans pool higher-risk borrowers, the insurance premiums are aggressive. You pay an upfront mortgage insurance premium, or MIP, which is usually rolled into the loan balance, and you pay an annual premium.
And here comes the kicker.
Critically, unlike conventional PMI, which automatically drops off when you reach 20% equity in the home FHA mortgage insurance, is, in many cases, permanent for the life of the loan.
Permanent. For 30 years.
You are trading immediate accessibility for a permanent structural expense unless you eventually refinance out of the FHA loan entirely.
A permanent fee. That is a heavy burden. Now, what about military service members? Because I know they have access to an entirely different class of mortgage.
If you are eligible for a U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, or VA, loan, you have access to arguably the most powerful mortgage product in existence.
What makes it so powerful?
VA loans require zero down payment. None. And even more incredibly, they completely waive private mortgage insurance. They allow eligible veterans and service members to bypass the two highest barriers to homeownership simultaneously.
Zero down and no PMI. That is an astonishing benefit. It almost makes the civilian market look like a scam. Why is the civilian market so heavily penalized?
It comes down to institutional guarantee. The federal government backs a portion of every VA loan, drastically reducing the risk for private lenders. Without that federal backing, conventional lenders demand significant skin in the game, either through a down payment or PMI, to mitigate their exposure to default.
Okay, so if you aren't military and you want to avoid the lifelong permanent insurance trap of the FHA loan, is there a way to get in early on a standard conventional loan?
Yes, through highly specific conventional programs. The most prominent example is the conventional 97 loan. The 97 refers to the maximum loan to value, or LTV, ratio permitted.
So the loan is 97% of the value.
which means the bank is willing to lend you 97% of the home's appraised value, requiring you to bring only a 3% down payment.
3% down. That is even lower than the FHA.
It is. However, the underwriting standards, your credit score, your debt-to-income ratio, are significantly stricter than FHA requirements. The bank is taking on 97% of the risk, so they demand a highly qualified borrower.
And it still has PMI, right?
It does carry PMI, but because it is a conventional product, that PMI can be legally removed once you aggressively pay down the principal or the home appreciates enough to cross that 20% equity threshold.
So we have thoroughly demystified the target numbers. It could be 3%, it could be 3.5%, maybe you aim for the 20% gold standard. We know we are meticulously parallel pathing. We are still avalanching our high-interest debt. We are managing our student loans. But let's get ruthlessly practical.
Down to the nitty-gritty.
Where does this extra money for the down payment actually come from in a normal, modern monthly budget? Most people feel like they are already stretched to the absolute limit. How do we manufacture the liquidity to hit these targets?
We have to move from macro strategy to micro tactics. And the first tactical saving strategy is rooted in behavioral economics. You must remove willpower from the equation. We touched on this when discussing the quarantined account, but it goes deeper. You must treat saving not as a passive result of what is left over, but as an aggressive primary expense.
Pay yourself first. I want you to mentally reclassify your savings transfer as a non-negotiable utility bill. Think about it. If you don't pay your electric bill, the lights go out. You sit in the dark. It is non-negotiable. You find the money. If you do not pay your future house bill, the dream goes out. You sit in your rented apartment forever, watching your rent climb. The mental shift of paying your future self first, before you buy groceries, before you pay for streaming services, literally alters your financial DNA.
The next strategy capitalizes on how the human brain processes unexpected liquidity.
Right.
We need to discuss the psychology of windfalls. Windfalls are irregular infusions of cash annual work bonuses, holiday gift checks, corporate rebates, and most notably, tax refunds.
Oh, we have to pause on the tax refund. The psychology surrounding tax season is absolutely wild. When the average person gets a $2,500 tax refund deposited into their checking account, they treat it like they just scratched off a winning lottery ticket.
It's party time.
It induces euphoria. They think, free money, let's book a flight to Tulum, let's buy an 80-inch television. But it is not free money. It is literally your own hard-earned income that you overpaid to the government, and they are finally handing it back to you with 0% interest.
It is a psychological illusion of wealth. The marginal propensity to consume spikes dramatically when money feels unearned or unexpected. The strategy here requires absolute militant discipline. You must pre-commit. Before the windfall even hits your account, you make the decision that 100% of it will be instantly routed to your quarantine down payment fund.
You have to reframe the narrative in your head.
Right.
You translate that tax refund from free vacation money into 40 square feet of my future living room. If you instantly and unemotionally route every single bonus, every tax return, every unexpected check directly into the house fund, you will dramatically compress your timeline.
You will hit your 3% or 5% target exponentially faster without ever feeling a daily pinch in your standard budget.
But we have to acknowledge reality. Sometimes automated savings and windfalls are simply not enough to overcome the math of a high cost of living area. Sometimes you have to look at your daily operational budget and engage in ruthless cutting.
I mean, taking a machete to your lifestyle.
Yes.
It requires auditing your life for structural leaks. You must aggressively identify discretionary spending, multiple redundant streaming subscriptions, dining out 4 times a week, premium gym memberships, expensive vacations, designer clothing, and sever them.
Just cut the cord.
Every dollar recovered must be immediately diverted to savings. This is an exercise in opportunity cost. What do you value more? The convenience of takeout food or the keys to a house? It is about embracing temporary deprivation for permanent generational gain.
Temporary is the load-bearing word in that sentence. You are not swearing off restaurants for the rest of your natural life. You are giving them up for 18 hyper-focused months to buy a house. You are delaying gratification, but let's push this to the absolute extreme. What if ruthless cutting isn't enough?
Sometimes it isn't.
What if rent in your city is eating 50% of your income and no amount of skipping lattes will ever bridge the gap? We have to talk about the nuclear option.
The nuclear option. If you are currently renting and you possess the privilege and the familial relationship to do so, you move back in with your parents.
I love this concept. The nuclear option. Let's address the massive elephant in the room. The pride versus property debate. Moving back into your childhood bedroom, especially as an independent working adult in your late 20s or 30s, is a staggering blow to the ego.
It's hard. Society tells you it's a regression.
Your peers are posting photos of their downtown lofts, and you are sneaking in quietly so you don't wake up your mom. You have to completely swallow your pride. You offer to pay them a reasonable stipend for room and board, utilities, groceries. But compared to market rent, your structural expenses absolutely plummet.
We must completely divorce the emotion from this strategy and view it strictly through the lens of wealth compounding. Let's do the math.
Let's do it.
If you are paying $2,200 a month in rent and utilities, and you execute the nuclear option, moving home and paying your parents $500 a month to cover your footprint, you have just engineered a massive liquidity event. You have freed up $1,700 every single month. Over the course of a single year, that is $20,400 in pure cash injected directly into your down payment fund.
$20,000 in 12 months. You are taking a savings journey that would normally require 5 years of agonizing budgeting, and you are compressing it into a single year. You are using your family structure as a financial lever.
It is the ultimate accelerant. It completely changes your trajectory.
So the question for you, the listener, is simple. Are you willing to trade 12 months of your social independence to leapfrog into permanent homeownership? Are you willing to endure a year of bruised pride to leap over everyone else who is stubbornly struggling on the rent treadmill? It is a fascinating psychological test of how badly you actually want the asset.
It really is.
Now, I recognize that moving home is impossible for many people. If your expenses are cut to the absolute bone and you literally cannot squeeze another dime out of your budget, there is only one mathematical variable left to manipulate. You must increase income.
The equation of wealth building is brutally simple. Maximize the gap between what you earn and what you spend. If your spending floor is as low as humanly possible, the only way to widen the gap is to aggressively raise the income ceiling.
So, side hustles.
This means acquiring a second part-time job or a side hustle with a strict mandate that 100% of the net income generated goes exclusively to the house fund.
You do not inflate your lifestyle with the second income. You don't use the side hustle money to buy better groceries. It is pure capital generation for the asset. You could also ruthlessly negotiate a raise at your primary job or aggressively volunteer for every hour of overtime available.
It is exhausting. You are trading your physical time and energy for capital, but the agency it provides is deeply empowering.
It is empowering because it shifts your mindset from passive victimhood to active wealth creation. You are taking complete control of a macroeconomic narrative that typically makes individuals feel entirely helpless.
Absolutely.
So, as we pull all these threads together, what is the ultimate bottom line of this deep dive? The bottom line is that the premise of the tug of war is largely an illusion. You usually do not have to make a binary choice between buying a home and paying off your student loans.
They are not mutually exclusive destinies.
By utilizing the parallel pathing masterclass, by exhibiting ruthless organizational discipline, by exploiting the mechanical flexibility of student loans, and by understanding the algorithmic reality of mortgage underwriting, both are incredibly worthy and simultaneously achievable goals.
And perhaps the most vital piece of advice is to remember that your financial situation is highly fluid. The economy is not static, and neither is your life. What feels mathematically impossible today, while you are sitting at your kitchen table staring at a mountain of debt and a stagnant savings account, might become highly realistic in 12 or 24 months.
Things change fast.
You might secure a massive promotion. You might marry a partner, suddenly merging two incomes against shared expenses. Macroeconomic interest rates might drop, instantly increasing your purchasing power. You must reevaluate your situation constantly, reassess your map, and remain adaptable. When the math changes, your strategy must change with it.
Stay adaptable. Let the data guide you, not fear. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought. We have spent this entire hour framing this journey as two separate finish lines, the student loan finish line and the house finish line. We've taught you how to run toward both simultaneously.
Right.
But I want you to consider a radical shift in perspective. If you execute this plan, if you buy the house first using a low down payment conventional or FHA option, and housing prices continue their historical march upward, what if your first home isn't just a place to live? What if it is actually a massive forced savings account, leveraging the bank's money.
Oh, the leverage is the key. You are controlling a $400,000 asset with only $12,000 of your own capital.
Exactly. Could the equity you build passively in that house over the next 5 or 7 years, through market appreciation and principal paydown, eventually become the exact financial hammer you need?
That's a fascinating way to look at it.
Could you eventually execute a cash-out refinance or sell the property, extract $60,000 or $70,000 in equity, and use it to smash the entirety of your remaining student loan debt in one single catastrophic blow?
It completely inverts the paradigm. In that scenario, the debt doesn't prevent the house. The house becomes the literal financial instrument that destroys the debt.
Let that sink in. Achieving one goal might secretly be the ultimate foundational solution to the other. Ponder that structural flip as you sit down with your kitchen table spreadsheet this Sunday. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today on the Generational Wealth Project.
It's been a great conversation.
We know this is incredibly dense, heavy material, but you now possess the mechanical and psychological tools to conquer it. One final reminder, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and keep relentlessly building that generational wealth. We will see you next time.